Okay, so this is the third step in the construction of the Panther suspension. And we're going to start out with these hard snowflakes, snowflake confetti. We're going to attach them to a couple of 11mm buttons. And you want to have these sanded and washed with detergent to degrease them. And of course the buttons sanded and washed. All plastic parts need to be sanded and washed before use. So I've already sanded these down a bit, and I'm going to install them on these buttons. I'm going to install them on the side with the divot in it, or the concave side rather than the flat side. So both sides will end up being flat. I'm just using 4:1 glue here. And I like to have the button towards me so I can see exactly what's peeking out on the other side of it. And then once you've got it centered nicely, just set it down. You're going to need a couple of those for each vehicle. Try to center it nicely. And then when those are dry, you're going to trim the edges just with scissors. So start out and just trim one of them, the stock off, and then we're going to trim right along the edge of the button. Just trim the first one so you can get at the second one, sort of thing. And we're going to come around and trim every bit that pokes over the edge of the back of the button, sort of thing. And so it'll look like that when you're done. Now I already let these ones dry, so I wouldn't suggest trying to do this until they're totally set. So give them 15-20 minutes to dry, depending on how hot and dry it is where you are. Could be a variable amount of time, I suppose. So anyways, trim the buttons down. So you're going to need 2 of those for each vehicle, and then you're going to need a bunch of sanded buttons for each vehicle. I believe it's 18 that we'll need, including these front ones. So I'm going to use crazy glue, but you can also use modeling glue for this. Modeling glue is a little bit less, it dries slower, so you have to hold them in place for a little bit longer, but it's also a little bit less rushed. So it's kind of better, and both are equally strong. So I'm just going to put a tiny amount of glue on either side of the button. And I'm going to glue the second layer flat side out, so concave side in. And I'm just going to try to center this as much as possible and keep it on the same level. So especially when using super glue, you have to get it into the exact right place the first time. If you don't, you're going to have to lift it off and try again. Which is why we let the first layer of buttons dry on very well, because peeling them off can be a little bit chancy. So always make sure to check both sides of the button, make sure you're putting the flat side out, and try to get it centered as well as possible. There we go. There's the first layer in. I'm just going to continue, but this time, the second layer, we're going to put the concave side out. So flat side in or down. And with the second layer of buttons, try to line them up perfectly with the first, or with the third layer of buttons, try to line them up perfectly with the first layer. And make sure to put the concave side out. So the spoon-like shaped side should be towards you, flat side down. And line them up as best you can with that rear level, the first layer. Now some of the buttons, sometimes they don't have a really very much of a concave side. You should avoid using those ones. It's important for the look of the model. The outer layer has a significant concave feature. Okay, and with the final front button, that's what we made these for. We're going to install those onto the front. And again, just trying to line it up with the button that's on the first layer. Okay. So even though these ones on the edge are only touching one button, they should be plenty strong, especially when the track is on. It'll be plenty strong for you. So do that on both sides, and you're ready to go to the next step.